To coincide with the release of the final film in the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, LEGO has just released 3 sets based off of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I'm gonna be honest, these sets are kind of a mixed bag for several reasons. There are standout figures and builds, yes, but other aspects really fall short. So today, I'm gonna be fixing the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 LEGO sets. Of course, before I can do any of that, I have to actually get the sets in the first place. And though Baby Rocket's ship was on backorder, I was able to get the other 2 sets pretty quickly. Let's first take a look at the smallest set, based off of the Guardians HQ, and this is actually the set that I'm going to be improving the most, as I think LEGO could have done so much more with the location. So what I've decided to do is to transform the set into a larger section of Knowhere. First off, however, we're going to be improving the figures, starting off with Star-Lord, and although it seems like LEGO thinks us fans don't really mind when they reuse figures, the truth is we care a lot. So to fix this figure, I decided to use Kai's torso from Season 4 of Ninjago switched around, red arms, and gray legs to create his more casual attire from the opening of the movie. I also wanted to fix that hairpiece by giving him the one used in the Guardian ship set, so I went out and bought it so I could make this improvement, and kinda just cause I wanted to justify this purchase. Using that same Star-Lord torso and legs, I've also made this custom of Kraglin, who I think would have been a great inclusion for this set. I also used the head from Gar Saxon, a part usage inspired by many superheroes today, and since I unfortunately don't have the Yondu figure, I just used a transparent red cheese slope for the fin. Anyway, those 2 figures were really the only reason I needed the Guardian ship, so we can put that to the side for now. The last figure is Groot, but I think he's already pretty perfect, so he doesn't really need any improvements. But going back to the build, with this set I really want to make a somewhat realistic version of Knowhere in the playset style of the original set, while staying accurate to the source material. However, this build is going to take a while, so in the meantime, let's take a look at what was definitely the standout set in this wave, the Bowie. It's got about 1100 pieces, retails for $100, and comes with 5 minifigures. Although the build did get a little bit repetitive at times, since you're basically building the exact same ring twice for the most part, the end result of the build is truly something to behold. Other than it being too small, which is just what's going to happen when you get a giant ship and make it into a $100 LEGO set, I can't really think of any problems with the build, which is why I'm going to be improving the minifigures instead. First off, we have the best figure in this entire wave of sets, Adam Warlock, and if you want to add some extra detail, you can just swap out his arms with ones from this Monkey King figure. The rest of the figures could definitely use some revamping, because they all use the exact same torso and legs. LEGO, do you realize how annoying that is? One way to address this would be with some simple variations in the uniforms, which I've taken it upon myself to design. First is Star-Lord, who is mostly the same, but I gave him a new hairpiece and face print, and then some arm printing, as well as some dual molded legs for the boots. Then for Drax, I kept the sand green skin color since that's what LEGO chose for him for whatever reason, but I gave him his more recognizable, shirtless, and tatted up look. Although I don't know if this ever happens in the movie, I still would have liked seeing this figure. Nebula and Mantis have some different printing with belts and clips and things like that, and then I also gave them some hip printing since that's what LEGO usually does for female figures, and unfortunately my Mantis figure does not have her normal hairpiece since it's not available on Mechabricks as of now. Another thing that I would have liked to see is the other Guardians casual outfits, like how I did for Star-Lord. Starting off with Drax, I gave him the legs from Apocalyptic Wildstyle and the torso from an Imperial Officer, then I gave him the arms from Alex from Minecraft and the hood piece from Wildstyle from the first LEGO movie. Mantis' outfit is pretty simple. She's wearing black pants, 1 green arm, and 1 dual molded arm that I got from Robin from the LEGO Batman movie, and the torso from Dr. Doom turned around backwards. Lastly is Nebula, who has the legs from a TIE Fighter pilot, 1 gray arm, and 1 metallic arm, and the torso from Tina Goldstein turned backwards, and although I'm not crazy on using this torso, it's the best that I could find. Now, a character that I really think could have been added to the set is Gamora, because Gamora was the only member of the original Guardians team not included in any of these sets, which is really unfortunate, so I've made a custom version of her from this movie. She uses the head and hair from Gamora from the Marvel CMF, and the torso from Black Widow in the 2021 Marvel Advent Calendar, then finally she uses the legs from T'Challa Star-Lord from the Marvel CMF. Let's check back up on Knowhere, and the build for it is coming along quite nicely, although in order to get enough dark red pieces, sacrifices must be made. So far, I've basically finished this part of the bottom section, and I'm now working on this area of the top, which has a giant window and includes a very interesting part usage of part of a gyrosphere piece, which I think works really well. The other thing that I've been working on was this build for Cosmo the Space Dog, a character that fans have wanted in LEGO for years, so I decided that today is the day that we finally get her in LEGO form. Here's a quick look at how you can build her in LEGO, and although she does kind of look a bit sad, maybe she's just been called a bad dog by Kraglin. Overall, I think this does a great job at representing everything from her nose nose, her ears, her collar, and of course her white spacesuit. Speaking of spacesuits, one more thing that I just thought of that we could do to improve the Bowie is to add the spacesuits worn by the Guardians as they enter the Orgosphere. And the classic LEGO spacesuits work perfectly for this. So let's go ahead and get 5 spacemen minifigures and then swap out their heads for the ones of Drax, Nebula, Mantis, Gamora, and Star-Lord. Then we can grab some transparent bar pieces and open up the hatch of the Bowie and then attach the figures to it. Although not all the colors are 100% accurate, if you did want them to be, you'd need an orange, green, and yellow spacesuit as well, I still think this looks great, and having all of them come out of the Bowie really does make for a great display piece. Oh yeah, remember before when I said that Baby Rocket's ship was on back order? Well, it finally arrived. So obviously I immediately got to building, and upon finishing the set, I wasn't blown away or anything, but I do think it'd make a decent gift for a younger sibling or cousin or something like that, even though it is a little bit overpriced. The main problem, in my opinion, is that this set only has one actual minifigure, and this lack of figures is made even worse by the fact that the main villain of the movie not only would have fit perfectly into the set, but he didn't get a minifigure at all. Seriously, this is 2 Guardians movies in a row where LEGO didn't make a figure of the main villain of the movie, but instead opted to make a figure of the gold-colored secondary villain. So to fix this issue, I once again had to go out and buy a set for one specific piece, this time being the face piece of Mace Windu from the Republic fighter tank set. So I went to Target, bought the set, and found the piece that I needed. To build the rest of the figure, I used the arms and legs of the Catwoman figure from the LEGO Batman movie, the torso of T'Challa Star-Lord flipped around backwards, and neck attachment piece from the Mandalorian AT-ST set. For a purist custom, I think this works great for the High Evolutionary, but I will dare to do better. So I went to my computer and designed a custom version of what I think the ideal figure for this character would have looked like. So here's what the character ended up looking like, and as you can see, he has a stern facial expression with some purple machinery on his head as well as some markings on his forehead. His outfit is light purple with dark purple armor surrounding his torso as well as some printed on his arms, and then you can see I used a dress piece for his legs because I think it better represents the robe that he's wearing. I added several light purple markings and dark blue accents for that extra bit of detail, and finally on the bottom of his robe I added some dark purple boots. Now let's take a look at the figure who actually was included in the set, Raccoon. He's wearing the exact same suit as the rest of the Guardians, albeit with short legs, but I think it's only fair to give him the same treatment as everyone else and make a custom of him in his casual attire from the beginning of the movie. And luckily, it's a really simple fix. You just have to get the Bucky torso from the Marvel CMF and flip it around backwards, then use some gray arm pieces for his long sleeves. And that's how you can build everyone's favorite MCU creep and his outfit from Knowhere. Speaking of Knowhere, let's check back in on the build one last time. Since you've been gone, I've made this entire other section connected by a bridge, which has things like a rounded window portion and a weapons room. So after I add the finishing touches, this is the day that we can finally take a look at the completed MOC. So starting off with the interior of the newest area, the bottom floor has the bar where Peter was drinking at the beginning of the movie, which has a couple of seats and a few drinks. Above that is a weapons room, which has a full rack of blasters on the floor with even more on the walls. The other side of the build has most of the pieces that the original set was comprised of, with the sign on the wall and several of the details from the original set on the inside. Finally, the last room is right above that being Peter Quill's room, which has a bed on the wall and a retro boombox by the window. Above the bed is a Jaws poster as well as several of his personal belongings, including a blaster, a slingshot, and a cassette tape. On the outside, I've included a bunch of figures as well as some signs and even some panels that Cosmo can use for levitating to practice her telekinetic abilities. Overall, I'm quite happy with the end result of the build, as like I mentioned before, I wanted to build a larger section of Knowhere while still maintaining the style and playability of the original set, which I think I've accomplished. On that note, leave any suggestions for future videos in the comments below, have a great day, and go build something awesome.